out. So yes, you
Okay.
have that permission to do that as well if you like, but
Perfect.
we are recording right now. We'll have that available as well. I want to let you know that we are live on Facebook, and Facebook Live attendees, we're excited to welcome you. I'm sure some folks will be joining us on Zoom shortly, Rob.
Welcome you to join us on Zoom as well.
Please, that would be great so that you could have a more intimate opportunity to chat with Rob directly. That would be wonderful. But yet, I just want to take a few moments here to say, welcome back to the GCBN platform. Once again, we're excited that you are a corporate sponsor of Georgia Christian Business Network and that you undergird our vision to put God back in business. And so thank you so much for all you do to make us successful. Because of you, we are. Because of who you are and your support, we are who we are today. So here we go, Rob. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, thank you so much, Beth. It's great to be back with you, and thank you for all you do to keep GCBN's not only the wheels on the bus going round and round, but also keeping the bus moving down the highway. And you've just done a great job in the middle of all this COVID panic. You've actually just ramped up your programming and making more offerings available to folks and members during this time. So kudos to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So my name is Robb Bingham, and I'm fearless leader here at Converging Solutions. And I think those of you who I know, great, welcome. Great to see you virtually in this format again today. Those who I don't know, I think you'll learn more just as we share today. I'm going to do some storytelling about how I came up with this Converging Solutions model, which I call a divine inspiration from several years ago now. And so as I have been in business, more people are starting to ask, so what is the difference about your design model, your problem solving model, as I refer to it, because I don't just use it for design, I use it for problem solving. And I think if you're like me, one thing, hey, Jenny, welcome. One thing that we seem to be reminded of continually through 2020 is that if nothing else, the future promises change. If you need some new strategies for riding this wave of constant change, then this session may hold some valuable insights for you. In sharpening your focus on the future, you'll be introduced to our unique, intuitive, and powerful Converging Solutions model that can help you tear down preconceptions so that you can tackle new, different, and complex challenges without becoming intimidated, overwhelmed, or discouraged. My hope is that you leave this session with your own new hope for your future and a new tool to walk into tomorrow with, a brand new outlook on life, even in the middle of 2020, even in the middle of a pandemic, and even in the middle of an election cycle. So what I would like to start with is a quick overview of what we'll be diving into today during today's session. First, there'll be a brief history of how this model came about, a few scenarios of the intuitive nature of the model, and how you have likely already seen it at work, though you may not have recognized how you can intentionally harness it in other settings. And finally, you'll be invited to catch your own wave and jump into the Converging Solutions way of designing, problem solving, and living your life. So this model grew out of my early experiences as a designer, instructional designer, when the tug of war that often happens between operations and training just didn't answer all the questions in the training project world that I was living in. This became incredibly up close and personal for me about 3 years into my corporate training experience when I worked on two very similar projects in the same year with radically different outcomes. The first project I served as an instructional designer on saved the company over $3 million in the first year after implementation. The second project cost the company over $1 million within the first 90 days after implementation, after which they scrapped the initiative and repurposed most of the training we had built because it was pretty good, and designed and redesigned basically their onboarding program. Now, neither the $1 million liability or the $3 million credit were solely the result of my efforts. In fact, I saw some things early on in the project that went belly up that made me raise serious concerns. But those concerns were dismissed by the project leaders, and the entire experience was both very troubling and very enlightening, as I was left to ponder, how can two similar projects within the same organization, with training designed by the same individual, with similar levels of engagement, produce such drastically different results? So, in my ruminations, my ruminations led me to consider that this tug of war that went on in so many of our teams, and ultimately led to the creation of the model that I'm sharing with you today. And that has led to some fairly remarkable success throughout my consulting career, if I do say so myself. I found that instead of getting into a tug of war, it was in our best interest to find someone or some department that doesn't agree with either one of our individual perspectives, so that they really do have a true outsider's opinion. Sometimes I'll suggest, let's get somebody from marketing. Nobody understands what goes on in their brains. And then suddenly the issues that surface stop being about my ideas or your ideas, operations versus training. It starts being about solving the problem that's out there in the space between all of us. And this allows us to work collaboratively on the issue without getting preoccupied with my ideas, your ideas, creative turf wars, or becoming defensive or impatient. At its core, the converging solutions model is really that simple. So let's take a look at 3 common scenarios I frequently leverage to help illustrate how intuitive the model is, and practical ways that you've already seen these principles at work in everyday life. And I'm going to need to stop sharing and make sure that I am sharing my audio because I realized I had not clicked that. And here is a quick overview.
The Converging Solutions model has been going strong for over 10 years. But do you really get how it works? And more importantly, why does it work so well? Here are 3 ways to explain how the Converging Solutions model works that most people can naturally relate to. When you get deeply engaged in an argument, have you ever found it helpful to get an outsider's perspective? A trusted, neutral third party to help determine the best course of action, shedding light on a solution neither of you could see on your own. That's a converging solution, providing a broader perspective and building trust. Have you ever wondered why some work assignments seem to be so uninspiring to you personally, while someone else refers to the same activity as their dream job? When a job aligns with your interests, strengths, and your motivating purpose, you become a superhero, and a good example of how the Converging Solutions model creates value. Have you ever known that there had to be a better way to do something, but couldn't figure it out on your own? If 2 heads are better than 1, 3 or more team members can really add both depth and breadth to a team. The Converging Solutions mantra is, together we can do more than any one of us could alone. That's how the Converging Solutions model drives innovation. The Converging Solutions model helps resolve conflict, which builds trust. It helps infuse personal interests and skills with purposeful passion to create value. And it helps teams work harder and smarter together, which drives innovation. That's part of the secret sauce inside the Converging Solutions model. Think about ways you or your team could benefit from this unique recipe for shared success. Then get out there, light the world on fire, and make a difference. The Converging Solutions way.
And let me make sure I'm cutting off the music here.
Oh, I love that video.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been very, very helpful as we try to explain what it is we do and how it is we do it differently. Now, building trust, creating value, and driving innovation are our company values, but this session is not about our company, although I'm always happy to discuss how great our team is at helping solve your training, communications, and performance improvement initiatives, so don't hesitate to ask. However, this session is about what's made the projects that our company leads so consistently successful. In other words, just how and why does the Converging Solutions model build trust, create value, and drive innovation? And how do we set up the teams that we work with for success? But before we talk about that, let's take a few minutes to think about systems that most people, most of us recognize are broken. And in order to do that, there are several systems that come to mind when we talk about how inefficient or ineffective or cost prohibitive or generally dysfunctional some systems are. In your chat, whether on Facebook or on Zoom, I'd like to ask you to study the images on the screen as a prompt, and then type in the name of some of the broken systems that you see pictured here or that you are aware of. This doesn't have to be from your own personal experience, and please don't feel limited by these images, but just allow these to get you started if you seem to have trouble identifying what I mean by a broken system.
Okay, but well, yes, oh, you guys, we make a good, we're like Charlie's Angels.
We'll,
yes, seriously.
Carolyn, welcome. I'm going to put you on mute real quick.
Oh, it takes a village to figure this shit out. All right, sorry. Carolyn, thank you. You are a goddess for starting this process.
Beth, I don't have
access. No problem.
Hey, Carolyn, there you go. Thank you. We'll take 30 seconds to let you enter at least 2 or 3 systems that come to mind in your chat right now. And duplicates are just fine. So go ahead and do that if you would. In Zoom or on Facebook. And Beth, I'll let you report what's happening in Facebook land, and I will monitor what's happening in Zoom. I see justice, police, social justice, loneliness, isolation, teaching, learning challenges, yes. Exploitation of elders, homelessness, mental health issues. Absolutely right. Right now we've got Black Lives Matter talking about racial injustice going on. The justice system, where some people are incarcerated at different frequencies and for different lengths of time than others, and child abuse. What else? Economic disparity, yes. Legal issues. And a couple of the images on there, the students that are sitting in a row or the guy holding a magnifying glass, I'm referring to that as kind of our education system. And from business perspective, we're talking about things like internships and the transition into internships. Beth, anything on Facebook? And you may be muted, Beth. You are muted.
We're good. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to forge ahead because we got a lot of ground to cover in very little time. Thank you for offering those up. Perfect examples. So let's take a couple of these issues. One that is super big and broad first, healthcare. And while we're certainly not going to solve all of the healthcare's issues in the next 3 to 5 minutes, or any of the healthcare's issues in the next 3 to 5 minutes, let me make some observations and see if your experience validates what my research has found to be true. Frequently, when people get sick, really sick, there seems to be a breakdown in the effectiveness of the system and how it works for individuals or groups of people. Now, that can take on many different appearances, starting with the medical system's tendency to overmarket and overprescribe pharmaceuticals. As you look at this summary on the screen, it says Americans pay more for drug and medical devices than any other country. Big Pharma follows potential patients everywhere, TV, print, and online. Companies spend billions advertising to doctors to get them to prescribe their brand name drugs. They also spend billions paying criminal and civil settlements resulting from fraudulent marketing. So do these practices empower patients and get them help they need, or does it expose them to newer, riskier, and more expensive drugs and devices? But it's not just marketing by big pharma. Many alternative healthcare professionals suggest that doctors are simply overprescribing medications for conditions that could be treated better in another, more natural way. As one of my chiropractor friends describes it, treating some common diseases by just popping a pill in the way some doctors are trained to do today, or marketed to today, is like going to a car repair shop because the engine light is on and paying the mechanic to reach behind the dash and unplug the wire so that the warning light goes off. It may take care of the symptom, but you may even leave feeling better about the situation, but it can really lead to many additional problems by not addressing the root cause. And this is one way that I'd argue it's time for a better, more thoughtful, converging healthcare approach, if you will. For years, some have fought with health insurance companies, and you may have done this, to recognize alternative health care approaches like chiropractic and psychiatric care. And as more research has been done, not only have these areas been recognized as contributing to positive health outcomes, but more and more research has even showing that people with a regular faith practice experience better health outcomes than those that don't have any religious belief. And this research isn't just being reported by religious universities, but by private and state schools and even business journals. So things are really starting to shake up. And this is fascinating to me because if you know some history, years ago, spiritual leaders were also known to be community healers, in some cases, literally medicine men and women within many societies. But with advances in science and intellectual appeal of the scientific method, the practice of medicine started to be perceived in opposition to spirituality. In fact, many of your grandparents, great-grandparents, if they came from a faith tradition, may have experienced a little faith crisis or quandary when it came to new medicines that became available from these new doctors. And they would think twice about things that we take for granted today. They may ponder, does it mean that I don't trust God if I go to the doctor or if I take this pill? And then as psychology became more and more popular on the scene, while it was a bit tougher sell than a hard science, it was certainly more reputable and defendable than faith-based remedies to these evidence-devoted scientists because of its commitment to clinical observation of human behavior. And as such, it came to be a welcomed and much more palatable substitute for spirituality for proud intellectuals, especially as psychiatry began to honor the use of, get this, prescribed medicines of both natural and synthetic chemistries. And interestingly, these three ways of describing a person's physical, mental, and spiritual well-being continued for years to grow more and more apart rather than together, often seen as competitors rather than allies in explaining the complexities of what goes into improving one's quality of life. Now, I would argue that when it comes to healthcare, individuals benefit by seeking the wisdom that comes from experts in all of these fields and exploring ways that they work together and complement each other. Now, I want to pause here and ask you, those of you, I suppose, in Zoom are the ones that we can hear from, just what have you observed? What have you seen in these areas that work together? Can you share an example where you've seen this principle at work? And to protect anonymity, I'll ask you to refer to anyone you describe as a friend. I'm asking for a friend. Have you known anyone that had a medical issue or complications that found treatment or better resolution outside of the medical field? Maybe they've gone through doctor to doctor to doctor, and they really found more relief after they took care of the core issue that they discovered outside, not just in psychotherapy or spirituality, but maybe in chiropractic or acupuncture, for example. Anybody want to come off mute and share an example?
Rob, I'll be happy to. I took myself off mute. Hope that's okay.
Yes.
I put into the chat that it seems to me that the way we're going with holistic and integrative medicine is closer to the model that you describe. I will say in all honesty, I'm not sure that I have known any friends or myself that find necessarily better or more complete healing outside of medicine, but I do find that when people put all these together, including some of the more natural approaches you're talking about, like, supplements and chiropractic and all that, I guess I personally wouldn't advocate that you take out any of these, right? But I do think that the integrative converging solution, I do think that is upping our results in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. Good example. Anybody else? Carolyn, Lee, Beth?
I'm good. Yeah.
Good.
I think, though, if I might add, and I'm trying to hold my tongue because I think you'll get to some of this later, the faith approach has to be, how do I say it, to understand that God created medicine. And so I'm sitting here thinking how you revisit when in times past, our forefathers, our grandfathers, grandmothers, great-grands depended upon their faith in God for that healing. But whereas I know God can miraculously heal anyone, the caution, I'd say, is to also be cognizant of the fact that God created medicine,
right,
for the purpose of you utilize it in faith. It's like prayer has to be in faith. So that's the only thing that I would add to that right now.
Absolutely. Point very well taken. We've all heard of people, whether we know them. My wife actually knows somebody who was part of a faith group and was trusting for her healing. And so she refused to go seek medical treatment for cancer, and she died and devastated her children, her family, and that's horrible to hear. It's heartbreaking. It reminds me of the old story. God, I'm waiting on you. I'm just going to wait on you. And then there's a flood that comes, and the guy stands out on his porch. I'm just waiting on the Lord. No, thank you. I'm not going to get a ride from you. And a boat comes by. And then later he gets up on the attic, and he's like, nope, I'm just waiting on the Lord. And a big tugboat comes by. No, thank you. I'm waiting for God. He is my rescue. And then later he's on top of the chimney standing, and another boat comes by. Please let us take you. A helicopter it was. And he said, nope, I'm waiting on the Lord. Thank you. My faith is strong. And he drowns, and he goes, Lord, I was waiting on him. Where were you? And he's like, I sent a boat. I sent a tug. I sent a helicopter. I am providing for you. Open your eyes, and be open to what I'm doing. And the opposite is also true. A friend, a tragic story. We know one of our kids in school whose dad went on an antidepressant, and it wasn't working for him, and they weren't sure what was going on. And the doctor told him, just get off that one. We'll find something else for you. But didn't tell him to go get off slowly, didn't coach him any more than that. It was just kind of a quick phone call thing. And he had a psychotic episode and ended the life of one of his family members. Horribly tragic. This is the medicine in whom we trust, right? And so it's not one or the other. And Beth, to your point, ultimately it's God orchestrating, and how do we discern where and what He's leading us and guiding us to do at any given point in time. Yes, my wife has worked for chiropractors for years, so she can share a number of examples where someone's having an organ issue of some sort, and they keep going to the doctor and getting prescribed all kinds of different things. And what's happened is there's a piece of their spine that's out of alignment. It's pinching a nerve that goes to that organ. So you're going to have all kinds of organ issues, and the doctor can prescribe medicine after medicine to try to figure out what. But if you're not getting the lifeblood, the flow of from the brain to the organ, and that life is literally being pinched off, you got to fix that at some point in time. So thanks for sharing great examples. Yes, and there are other treatments outside of what we can think of as the norm that can have life-transforming results. So At this point, I want to pause, and I have two best-in-class examples, as I refer to them, that I found in the areas of psychology and spirituality that I'd love to share with the group. But let me just do a pause here. It will probably take another 5 minutes or so to share those. Can I just get a quick thumbs up or no? I want to make sure, number one, that you're with me. Would you like to hear about the psychology example and the spirituality best in world-class example, or would you like me to move on? Thank you, Lee. Move on is another possibility. Okay, great. Well, then let me share this very briefly with you. The first one I think some of you may recognize, and the other one very few of you probably have heard of. Give me a thumbs up or a chat yes if you've heard of Dr. Caroline Leaf. What I really admire about her approach to psychology is that through her early career as a communication pathologist and cognitive neuroscientist, she saw some patterns in behavior and put together a training system to help teach people how to reprogram their brains by literally changing their stinking thinking. That's my term, not her technical jargon. She might be offended if I called it that. She actually refers to them as toxic thoughts. And in addition to her podcast and her YouTube offerings, she's built an app called Switch, which helps people over a 21-day cycle to focus on a single toxic thought and work to identify what's at the root of it, figure out where it came from, and then teaches listeners along the way as they journal and go to a deeply introspective place to embrace the pain that is there, literally feel it, process the pain rather than avoid it or medicate it to detoxify your mind. She shares from her research on the brain that this process literally softens up the branches of those memories, as she describes it, within the brain so that they can melt away instead of becoming more rigid and eventually breaking or breaking down, which research shows left unchecked can lead to diseases like hypertension, depression, digestive issues, sleep disorders, cancer, and even Alzheimer's. Now, while her research on the brain is very science-based, you can also hear in some of her YouTube videos to certain audiences that she's coming from a faith perspective as well, which I really appreciate and find to be a very converging approach to her work. She would also suggest that while many people need pharmaceutical support initially, a majority may be able to come off of most of those medicines once you start changing your thoughts and your thought life and allowing your body to naturally restore and renew itself like it's designed to do, even suggesting that 80 to 90% of sickness begins in the brain or the soul. Fascinating. The other example is a small faith-based organization in Thomaston, Georgia called Be in Health. And one of the many proverbs that they teach from is Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. About 30 years ago, the doctor that founded this organization was frustrated when he kept seeing patients that he couldn't help. From his Christian faith perspective, he described a point in his career when a patient that had reached out to him for help was becoming allergic to more and more foods until she could literally only eat 2 foods, rice and something else. And she was literally dying of malnutrition. She'd already been to several well-respected healthcare facilities, but now she was seeing him. And he was praying about this patient and how he might find a way to help her. He felt so helpless. And he felt led to ask her if there was anyone in her life that she was harboring bitterness toward. Now, I don't know about you, that's a question that you might not expect or see coming from your doctor when you go for a doctor's visit. Well, she immediately broke down in tears and told the story of the ways that her mother had failed her repeatedly in her childhood, that she'd spent a lifetime trying to get over. And as he worked with her, she chose to ask for forgiveness, harboring bitterness toward her mother. And within days, she was able to eat and keep down first one more food, then another. And soon she was back to full health when the professional medical community that she'd been seeing had given her less than a year to live. and no path back to wellness. During his last 30 years of life, Dr. Wright built a full matrix of diseases and conditions for which the medical community can often only diagnose or manage symptoms. And he and his wife started this ministry that, among other things, offers a week-long workshop called For My Life, where attendees are walked through the process of healing and of dealing with the most common spiritual roots of their illnesses, because he saw that there was a map. This kind of sickness or disease, breast cancer, typically comes from these kinds of roots of unforgiveness, bitterness, fear, and other diseases come from other. It was fascinating to be there and just listen to the teaching. As they describe in one of their sessions about financial stress, for example, relating to migraine headaches. Migraine headaches frequently are caused from financial stresses. Doctors prescribe medications, they say, that will raise the serotonin level, drop the histamine levels to control the migraines. And I'll parenthetically add, this sounds a little bit like unplugging the overheated engine light, right? We prescribe that you repent of the fear of financial failure or whatever else is tormenting you. You can resolve your inner conflict by taking your peace in God and trusting Him as your source rather than your finances. Stop leaning on your own understanding and start to seek His ways continually. Wow, that's pretty practical. And if you think about it, it's a whole lot less expensive than a lifetime of prescriptions for migraines, as well as more prescriptions to treat the symptoms of the side effects that the migraine medication gives you. Here's an interesting article on the true cost of the 10 most prescribed drugs in 2014. And while it validates that some of these drugs have changed people's quality of life for the better, it also goes into considering how much it costs people who go onto some of these medications that have known side effects, and how many the FDA approves only later to remove them, and the class action lawsuits that follow many of these drugs. And by the way, if you'll share your email at the end with me in the survey we'll give you at the end of the session, I'll send you a link with the articles we cited in today's session.
Hey,
in light
Rob,
of, yeah.
I was just going to interject here. You mentioned Dr. Wright. Would that be Henry Wright?
Henry, yes.
I said, I knew, had they changed their name recently? Because this is a resource. I'm in my den taking the call today. Yeah. And I knew there was a reason that I wanted you to continue with the spirituality piece, but if I was outvoted, that was fine. I would talk about it later. But the great opportunity is because I said, I'm familiar with this teaching. So I put myself, I hid my video and went to my bookcase here, and I pulled this copy from way back. It's such an excellent resource. And so I'm loving what you're saying, because it marries so much to, it married so much to what I was thinking. I've heard this teaching, I've heard this learning, but I highly, highly recommend. Do you have this? A more excellent way by Dr. Henry Wright. It is excellent. And it's some of the root causes of, you know, what mankind has as a disease. He goes into the spiritual roots of that. Yeah. To determine, even it's to fascinating. It's fascinating. Yeah. So I love.
Yeah, I got to go to the workshop less than a month ago, and my wife is there right now. I'm so excited.
My God, I love it. Yes. Yes. It's wonderful. Yes.
Good. So if you think about a toolbox analogy, the overprescription of pharmaceuticals is kind of like the hammer, that to a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And so, again, these are a couple quick examples that and here's a list of the drugs, the top 10 drugs. And some of them they mentioned are very, very beneficial and very necessary. They're not trying to slam on drugs. Some of them have really helped diabetics stay alive. But if you think about all of the side effects of some of these and the stress, for example, Nexium is stomach acid. Well, what's eating away at you that's causing your stomach to attack itself, and what kind of stressors? And Dr. Wright's book would have some ideas for that. So very good. That's why I suggest something more like this, where we don't just take a single perspective into account. We look at multiple frameworks and see what we might be missing, just looking from our own preferred paradigm. And good partners in each of these areas will honor the gifts and perspectives of practitioner from other areas. One of the things I really like about both of these resources that I shared with you today is that they will tell you, do not go off your prescriptions without talking to your doctor first. They don't rip on the healthcare system. They honor it as being there for a reason. When I went to the workshop offered by Be in Health, they said, if you have an emergency while you're on campus in your room, you start by dialing 911. Those are medical professionals, and they are there to help you in a crisis, and they're really good at that. We are here to help restore your life to normalcy and help raise awareness of what may be going on underneath the hood that caused the crisis in the first place. And I should also mention to you that I'm not an affiliate for any of these organizations. They've just been a significant support to my own family and friends, and I've seen and participated in their programs personally, and they have proven to be reputable, and I love recognizing other great converging solutions when I see them. And I should say too, this is not medical advice, blah, 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 blah. All right, all the disclaimers taken care of. It's worth noting that many of our most advanced and reputable healthcare facilities, back to Ginny's point, Mayo or a well-respected cancer center, for example, are now starting to put together teams of physicians and mental health specialists to work together on a patient's treatment plan. So the healthcare system is catching on, and that's great. And that looks like a converging model to me. So it's as fascinating as the healthcare system is, let's talk about another broken system real quickly, and this one will hit even closer to home for your businesses. Internships. In your chat window or on Facebook, can you take a moment to type how long ago it was that you or your organization last tried to work with an intern? And if you have an ongoing intern program, it may have just been a week or a month ago. Others, it may be 10 years ago. And for too many, it may be that we tried it and we're never going to do it again. So go ahead, type in the period of time that it's been since hosting your last intern within your business. And after you do that and you've pressed enter so others can see your responses, I want you to describe in a phrase or a sentence what type of challenges you ran into when working with interns, or if you have an ongoing internship program, what are common recurring problems that you encounter with interns that you work with? Let's take a moment to do that. And let me say too that I am not sharing my screen, am I? So let me do that, because you could have seen this pretty picture right here. So what are some of those? What are some of those for you? In chat, we have holding their attention. It's been years. Never had one, but I'd love one. Yes, many people say that because of all the money they're going to save until they have one, and then they end up saying, you know what, I had to rework everything. It was really frustrating. And it sounds like some of you've even had the same intern, perhaps. But yes, these are some of the problems that you can run into. They just don't have the skills that I thought they'd have. They don't have enough life experience. But you know what's interesting? Every single one of us needed someone to give us our first job experience and give us some coaching when we didn't have a ton of skills and couldn't add tremendous value. So what's the solution? Someone says, well, we need better schools or better parents, or in some cases, just a better gene pool would be helpful to start from. Here's how this model works. To build a better internship experience, not only does the student need to benefit from the experience, but there must be benefits for all the other participants involved as well. And too often there's not. Oh, and by the way, if you can't relate to internships in any way, this same model works amazingly for a mission or nonprofit work that you're interested in supporting. So just change out your participants and at the center, you are trying to improve the life opportunities offered to these individuals instead of to students. You'll be much more successful at it if you find ways to benefit everyone involved. And if you need a best-in-class example here, think about what Habitat for Humanity does. It's very parallel to this model. Without this model, think about what you just described. The company loses out because there is very little value to the company. The university could lose its reputation, and the student really loses because the experience was not only transformational, sometimes it's not even transferable. think about the internships that you've heard of or you had, where it was more about filing papers or setting up appointments than gaining real life experience. So that's the tug of war that often happens at everyone's expense. Instead, let's look and take a quick look at how we work to help identify the benefits to all parties involved and how our participation in the process can make such a difference. I want to start with the university system. So the university system in our model looks like this. They provide the candidates, they provide the technologies and skill development training. The thing that's frequently missing from the university program is that faculty really needs to hand pick and work with the students more specifically on the placement and make sure it's a quality placement. And we'll talk about how that can happen. The company needs to not only provide funding and but they need to, and the office equipment and some feedback, exit interviews perhaps, but they also need to have very targeted specific projects for interns that add value for the intern and are not such a big project that they can't get started. I also asked the company to provide 5 to 10 hours of part-time staff coordinator support. And if you've ever had an intern before, you know that usually companies spend way more time than that. It can be a full-time job for somebody if you have 3 or 4 interns just to manage them. And then what Converging Solutions does in this scenario, we provide oversight, program management. We vet the intern applicants, so we kind of pre-qualify them and make sure that the minimum threshold of required skills is there. We also help match them to the projects that they actually could have some success at doing and can identify very quickly whenever they're in over their heads. The other piece is we partner the interns with a senior ID or project manager from our team. And this person, and this is the secret sauce from a Converging and Solutions perspective and the model you see at work again. What do you think happens? I'm going to skip this slide just for time's sake, although I'll mention something there. What do you think happens? What is the biggest hurdle for new interns when they are on a job, and what is their number one preoccupation? What are they spending most of their time trying to do? Any guesses? You're going to have to come off mute.
I'd say adjusting to the process of that particular organization.
Yes. And what do they want to, what kind of impression are they wanting to make on that organization?
Oh, they want to be impressive, you know.
They want,
they have the know-how.
Yeah, because if they do it well enough, there is the potential that they could have a job waiting for them, right?
Yeah.
So they don't want to seem like the dull nut on the tree. They don't want to be the one that's that is needing. They don't want to be the squeaky wheel. They want to demonstrate their competence, but they don't want to ask stupid questions, right? Because that's a so what they'll end up doing, 9 times out of 10, interns will they'll not know how to do this, and they're like, I remember something from class about this, but man, okay. And then they start looking through their books, and then they start looking online, and then they just spin their wheels, and they spend a half a day or more trying to figure it out on their own, something that they could ask someone that they felt was safe to ask, and they could be up and running in 5 minutes. That's the biggest piece of where we provide a huge benefit, because we become that safe partner for them to ask stupid questions. And we'll schedule 30-minute touch points 2 or 3 times a week as they're getting started, just so that they have a safe place to ask those questions. It makes the internship experience so much more beneficial for both the company and the intern. And of course, that makes the university look a lot better as well. The other thing that happens is, for the company, this can turn into a pipeline for new talent. If you regularly have interns coming in every semester, you really can eliminate a lot of your recruiting effort. You have a solid transition of talent coming through your organization, and you can handpick the best and the brightest for your organization. And that's huge. That's a huge benefit. Remember, when you get these different contributors all working together for good, you create an environment for students to learn transferable skills and have transformational experiences. And like we said, companies may never need to recruit again for these roles. Universities get a great reputation for putting out quality students, and they get feedback both from the student and the company. And we as a company, as a consulting firm, get to build deep and wide relationships with both the university system and businesses that are hiring them. There's a lot more to implementing this model than we have time to share on the call today, but if this is an area that is interesting to you and you want to explore further, please be sure to contact me, as we already have relationships established with UGA, GSU, UNG, and several other acronyms from other states, USF, U of M, MSU, to name a few. What I do need are more companies that understand the potential benefit for them. I want to partner with them in this way to give back. And like I said, this can be a great pipeline for new talent. So now that we've talked about some of the broken systems and the way that converging solution model can help broaden the potential set of viable solutions, I want to spend the last 5 minutes we have together with one other secret sauce element that is key to making our projects with companies so consistently successful in building trust, creating value, and driving innovation. And that has to do with introducing the team to this model, which you can always find out on our website. The Converging Solutions Target Model helps teams stay innovative, open, and responsive to new work and life experiences. Target stands for tearing down preconceptions, and that is a great project team meeting all of its own, where we kind of map out and get down, okay, this is where we've been coming from, this is what we think is the right solution, what's underneath those stones, what could we do that's completely outside, and this gets into assembling a comprehensive set of ideas, divergent strategies, is what this is all about. So how many different uses are there for this brick in this organization? And what else could we do with this brick? Or how should we modify this brick? What could we shape this brick into? Then we reflect and refine theories. We gather specific resources, which is the converging strategy, where the other assembling a comprehensive set of ideas is divergent thinking. Convergent thinking is gathering specific resources and honing in on them. But you don't do that until you have done that other groundwork, because otherwise you'll be limiting yourself too quickly up front. Then engaging solutions and test new findings. So with that said, suppose you wanted to start applying the Converging Solutions model to a problem within your organization or life. What does this look like within your own team? Here is a lightning round for you, and we're going to take literally 2 minutes to do this. You've heard of BHAGs. What are BHAGs? What do they stand for? Or what does the acronym BHAG stand for?
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes, big, hairy, audacious goals. Well, before we can define BHAGs, we need to identify the B-umps, the big, ugly, massive problems. Now, we love B-umps because when we take them on, we help you see them as a opportunity. See what I did there? B-umps, a opportunity. I'm just getting started. So you come up with a challenge statement, or if it's really big and it's been a problem for a while, there may be a number of versions of this, such as our company has had X happen, or we ran into this roadblock, or we realized we're losing money, or we're losing people or customers because so whatever the case is, you come up with your problem statement. And then you start mapping out, what are the failed attempts? We tried this and this and this. And that becomes, from the target model, tearing down preconceptions, all those things that we've tried before. Then identify the resources you have available, team members that could be part of the solution, as well as challenging team members that throw up obstacles. And I encourage folks to engage them. Not if they're inherently evil, you know, not if they are the Joker to your Batman, but if they are just the ones that always come up with the reasons this isn't going to work, that can be really helpful. You need that. So engage them. And then there's an example here of what that might look like. A company or nonprofit has 55% of the customers that don't renew after the first year. It may be they don't like the features we have. They're going to other competitors, like a big competitor like Amazon. We've tried discount renewals, bundles. We've tried, and we have allies of customer service and tech, but the sales director, man, they're just not on board. The CEO doesn't like the ideas. Well, this is a BUM, and we need to come up with a new BHAG for it, and that's where we can help. Remember, and that's where we're going to have to leave it for today. But as you work through that process with this model, and go back, listen to the recording if you need to get those pieces of the model down. With this model alongside of it, you'll be in great shape as you work as a team to define a better path towards success on your next project, a project that honors the rich diversity on your team, encourages creative thinking and fast prototyping so that you can quickly get to original ideas that can make a difference, achieve results, and light the world on fire, the Converging Solutions way. All right, well, that's it. Thank you so much. Beth, I know that we have a little bit of housekeeping things to take care of.
Yeah.
I will say that there's my information here. If you need to reach out to me, I'll bring it back up in just a minute. But I wanted to very quickly announce the time management workshop that we're planning. It's a half-day workshop in mid-November called Time Management Beyond the Basics. And I'm going to ask you to go to this link. You can either use this QR code on the screen and point your phone at it, or follow this link. I will also try to post this link in the chat here momentarily. And we're going to ask you to go out and just fill out a survey while we are doing the end of session touch points and wrap-ups. But we'd really love to have your feedback to know, number one, is time management something that you're interested in? And if so, what price point would be value added for you? And there's a description there. So as you do that, I'm going to turn it back over to Beth. And then after everybody's had a minute to get into the survey at least, and there's a description of the session right at the beginning of the survey for you to read through. I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time, so I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to go to chat, and I'm going to post the link in chat. And Beth, if you want to post that on Facebook,
I will. We will follow it up, and I'm going to tag you on Facebook where to actually place that with like a tagline for it as well.
Great.
But for right now, stop sharing your screen if you can for a second, because I want to appeal to everyone that's on this call. We've had anywhere from 4 to 5 different people and 6 at one time join us on Facebook Live. This is just outstanding. And honestly, at the very start, the power of it was just realized for me that this is just a snippet. We didn't even get anywhere near the iceberg to what you have to share through this convergent solution. And so I'm more excited than I was prior to our conversation 2 days ago or whenever it was, prior to our little talk this morning, even more so. We've got to promote this. We've got to, those that are on the call, Lee had to drop off. I see Letitia's with us. Jenny's still with us. Those are on this call. Help us. And there are people that were on Facebook, Billy Dodd, Angela, all of you there. Jessica was out there. A couple of you people are out there. We've got to identify more with this and share it with others, because when people are stuck, they need to be able to have an option to embrace, and not just an option, but a convergent solution, if you will, no pun intended, but it's the truth. It is very much the truth. And I think back then, Rob, and I know I'm supposed to be doing my housekeeping, I'm still talking about Converging Solutions, but you were ahead of your time back then for such a time as this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And thanks, Jenny. Yeah, that's what I believe. So I had to say that to you. And so I've shortened myself here. Basically, I want to get that information out to the people. If we can go ahead and get the survey that you're going to talk about in the hands of the people. And what I'm considering right now, and this is just impromptu, we didn't talk about it, I've got to address the members on a couple of things anyway, get them their reset from the reset seminar link and all of that out. I want to address that we're having this come up. As an opportunity, it is a benefit for members because they get abbreviated passing. I'm foregoing my time here, but I've got to talk about this for just a second. So let's include the survey and that correspondence to our members so that we can build this up. Because I believe if we empower the people with valuable tools like this, because GCBN is about putting God back in business. And we do that through addressing the whole person. So I'll get in a plug here. And so part of that whole person is to understand that we can grow and there are solutions and there are things that are out there that God has gifted and skilled people to share with us. And if we share that information with the family and the local community, what's going to happen is they're going to be empowered to empower others. And what we're seeing as all those things that we name that are challenges in our lives, that are overwhelming problems, we'll have a skill and approach on how to reach some resolution, that we go from that, we back it up from BHAGs and deal with what are those huge problems. Tell me, BUMPs, that's the first I've heard that one, but Jim Collins, I know, but you gotta get that up there because we gotta, that's foundational to get into the audacious. That's born out of that. So this is wonderful. So there you go. I don't have time to talk about all the wonderful things that we're doing at Georgia Christian Business Network, but I do invite you to join us each Tuesday here on Facebook Live or Zoom. I prefer Zoom because we had chats going on that you guys aren't privy to if you're on Facebook Live, and it takes just an opportunity to click over. You don't have to show yourself if you don't want to, but yet you can be a part of the Zoom call here. So I want you to consider that going forward. And then also join us tomorrow. We have an excellent platform with Rich Oswald and Pamela Bridgman, 2 additional GCBN sponsors that take the platform for I've got to get out, and I may consider just doing a little Facebook live just to share about tomorrow and why I want people on there. It's because they're dealing with relationships. And I'm telling you, we need it in society today in every aspect of the word, whether it's family relations, business relations, relationships are at a all-time high for being challenged. And the pandemic only added to it. And I said that intentionally. Only added to it because there were issues prior to, and you can tell me any group. I love what Rob put on LinkedIn. He said any denomination, any wherever you're thinking, if you're a non-believer, we'll take you. We want you to be a part because we have solutions through what Rob shared today and also on GCBN tomorrow. We want people to come and participate because Rich and Pamela are professionals, and we bring expert knowledge people like Rob that you heard today, that you'll hear on tomorrow with Rich and Pamela, dealing with real live situations and not just dealing with them, not just talking about them and leaving you stuck, but providing solutions for you to be able to deal with these things beyond dealing with them and to conquer, if you will, become victorious in them and be able to live the life that God designed for us. Rich has got me fired up, so I apologize if we're going on. It's his fault, okay? This is just wonderful. Thank you for joining us. I'm gonna let Rich just close this real quick here. Thank you for our audience on both sides, but Tuesday and Wednesdays at noon at a minimum is what I say. And visit our website, www.gcbnetwork.com, and join our network. We need you to be a part of this. We're putting God back in business. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. And you know, the thing that I will leave everyone with is a quick teaser. It's a minute for those that are able to stay on. Your Facebook may cut off. I'm not sure how that happens, but it really spells out the benefit of this program, and I think it will mean a lot. You'll kind of go, oh wow, maybe I do need to be there. So let me play that for you real quick. It's this short.
Meet Paula and Pippa. Just like all of us, Paula and Pippa both have 24 hours in every day. And while the lives of these workplace and home life superheroes are quite similar, the subtle thing that makes them very different is how they manage their time. Paula finds it hard to say no to any worthwhile opportunity that comes her way, while Pippa has decided to focus her efforts on activities where she knows she can truly make a difference. And while Paula makes it home exhausted and spent, Pippa seems to have extra energy to spend with those that mean the most to her. Paula and Pippa are both superheroes to those around them, but Pippa just seems to juggle it all with less stress and more happiness, both at home and at work. Truth be told, Pippa has a secret time management weapon: the 3 Ps. With the 3 Ps, Pippa has improved focus and spends her time doing the most important things first. And then, somehow, everything else manages to fall into place. Did you know that you can master these superpowers with a little consistent practice? Are you ready to learn the powerful punch of the 3 Ps? When you attend Time Management Beyond the Basics, you'll have the opportunity to learn a new superpower, which just might add more pip and pep to your step.
So there you have it.
Awesome. And we're so honored at GCBN to be sponsoring this.
We appreciate the partnership as well. Thank you so much, Beth. Good to see you, Jenny. And thanks anybody that's still out in Facebook land. Thank you for being with us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob. We'll touch base soon. See you, Jenny. Good to see you.
Thank
Brett's
you.
on the call on Facebook Live. Hey, Brett. Hi there. He's going to be on the platform not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. Next Tuesday is Lisa Muth. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome.
Talk soon, guys.
Look forward to it.